Hello. This is Fenriz, trying to explain a little bit about this and that when it comes to this album. This riff probably now is one of the most famous riffs of black metal or something. And it was this riff that led to the whole album. 93 was a bleak year. Euronymous killed and Count Grishnak enjailed. And to sum it all up, I guess, I was thinking a lot about what had happened in 93, and I think October or November in 93 I was at work, and it was a late night shift, and I just got struck with the idea and the notes of the start riff for this song, and the lyrics as well. And I think I possibly had some idea about the lyrics, but not all of them. I probably did the vocals and I didn't do the vocals, but I did the lyrics at a later point to suit the song better. But this whole thing about bleak, cold, dark, of course, some key words in black metal anyway, was very present. And the idea of just having like one drum beat almost throughout the album, I must have had a very inspirational day at work, because I think I possibly figured this all out in the beginning, because I started recording the track. Can't remember if I knew that it was going to be a whole album, but I made the riffs on guitar. It felt just the way it was supposed to do for once. It just fell right into my lap. And with these note changes you just heard here is actually rather classic songwriting, which we hadn't really done in Darthrone before. I wanted to include some of that as well, to see how that went with the black metal format, although it has been done before. Of course, the first black metal band, Venom, did a lot of that. The riffs had to be made first, one song at a time. So I made the riffs, put them together, and then had it all in my head, and sat behind the drum kit and started just drumming the song out with the memory of the riffs in my head, and then put on the guitars. First one, and then two. And that's when I discovered that the guitar sound that I had chosen for the two guitars really worked well together with these kind of riffs. And many have tried to copy this sound later, and unfortunately I don't know what kind of guitar strings, what kind of amp or pickups, or what kind of guitar even I used. I found the type of fuzz that was correct for these riffs and this tempo. And those two guitars just clicked really well with each other. The small amount of finger movements I do on the riffs just sound very correct with this type of riff. Now you will hear at the end of some of the songs that the bottom line noise in the amps, I guess the fuzz box or whatever, really loud, so that the When I play the guitar, it would be on like, let's say 8 out of 10 on the level, and when I just turned the guitar more or less off, the hissing was still there, and it was about 4 out of 10 on the level, so very strange kind of fuzz guitar there. Bass playing was easy to do, and I just picked a bass sound that would sound good with the guitar sound that I already knew was doing what had to be done. And I chose a bass sound with a little bit of fuzz, but you can hear clearly the notes. Not too much fuzz, not too little. And there's 8 seconds between each song. That was also my idea. It was really important for me to have like huge gaps, like not Raining Blood with Slayer at all. So that was a little trick, and for those that need to copy this style further, leave 8 seconds between each track, and good luck. This song is called Over fjell og gjennom torner. Over mountains and through thorny bushes. I guess it's a good pronunciation, or whatever. Really short track, as far as I remember it. It was sort of I just cut it. And I thought it was pretty ballsy thing to do. Part that begins 1 minute and 30 seconds circa out in the song. The song is just cut, not a planned finish of the song, and still this song I think it's damn good, but also really strange with that ending, or not ending. Again, I think a lot of the atmosphere is has a lot in common with Burzum. I was clearly inspired by Burzum, but I couldn't really use the Burzum type of drum beats. I would have my own drum beat throughout the album, so that I'd make the sound a little bit mine as well. And there's a lot of stuff going on this album that is not inspired by Burzum, but I would say that Burzum is probably like the main inspiration for me starting this process with the whole album. Yeah, just cuts. I don't know. That beginner's riff is very typical of Merciless from Sweden, which was the first album that Euronymous from Mayhem released on his label Death Like Silence Productions. So it was a blackened thrash album that he released first, and on the sub-label that Nocturno Culto and me were given by Peaceville, called Tyrant Syndicate. We also released a black and thrash album as a first album. Merciless album called The Awakening. I hope most of you that listens to this already have the album, or else just go get it. Very, very good vocals there by Ted, and how did that come about? Well, I had recorded the whole album because when Transylvanian Hunger was done, I was pleased and just continued in the same vein. And I wanted it to be like that, a very monotonous album, monotonous beats, which would be difficult as a band or a two-piece to do, because then it would be some sort of rule that I would instill upon Ted, and I wouldn't want that, so I just did it myself anyway. In Darthrone we hadn't rehearsed since the recording of Under a Funeral Moon in '92, so Darthrone had no action since the summer of '92 until this recording, which was recorded again in October or November '93, as far as I remember. And when it was done, I sent the tape to Ted, Nocturno Culto, and I hoped that he would do the vocals on it, and he said yes. But then the Necro Hell studio only had 4 channels, and I had used all 4 of them, so we had to bring the whole goddamn mini studio, I think, to Stovner Rockeverksted, Stovner Rock Workshop, and do the vocals there, like it's actually recorded professionally, the vocals, but we couldn't make them sound too fancy because the rest of the sound is necro, so I guess we just turned knobs until the vocals suited the rest of the album's atmosphere. Valhall actually used to rehearse in that studio and probably recorded at least 1, if not 2 albums there at Stovner Rock Workshop, and also the first Dødheimsgard album was recorded there. Fun facts. Sorry. That song, Norwegian pronunciation is Skall av Satans Sol. And here comes Slottet I det fjerne. Slottet I det fjerne. Again, this castle in the far is a painting by Theodor Kittelsen called Soria Moria. One of the first Darkthrone songs were called Soria Moria. I think we changed the lyrics and used most of the riffs to maybe that song was ending up called The Watchtower or something. I'm not sure. Some experts out there probably know it. I have forgotten it. Soria Moria Castle is probably a metaphor for that shining object afar that you not necessarily want to reach or own, but just that it's there, something to dream about. But then again, my lyrics about this song doesn't deal with that at all. As usual, my lyrics are pretty hateful, and then Vikernes lyrics will have to be understood on its own. I will not go into any elaborations about my lyrics or his lyrics for this album, or actually any album. I try sometimes, but it's just crap. When I've written lyrics, it's done. All the emotions are in there, and I don't want to extract them afterwards. that kind of riff is probably people's favorites. That's not the riffs that work best for me. That's one of the reasons I really am not comfortable with the two songs that resemble these on the Panzerfaust album. It just should have been left to this album, and it's a bit too melodic for me, but that was what was inside of me, along with more basic riffs like the one we're hearing now. And I just had to have it, get it out of my system, probably. So yes, I prefer this riff and not the melodic one, but you see, if I only had riffs like this, it would be boring, so we have to have some other sort of riffs too, or else it will be just dead boring. So even if in its monotony there's rather a lot of variation, so remember that, you that need to play this style. At the time, it used to take 8 months from an album was recorded until it was released, at least on Peaceville. And so the album we say is 1990, Soul's Journey was released in 91, Blaze Northern Sky was for us 91, but it was released in 92, Under a Funeral Moon was recorded in 92 and released in 93, and this one was a 93 album, but released in 94. Rather confusing. And not to delve too much into politics, but when people say when is the album from, it's always the release year that seems to count, but it should always have been the recorded, or when is the recording from, that should have been the official year of a release. There you could clearly hear how loud the basic fuzz was on the guitars. Now starts side B, and the lyrics written by Count Grishnak. And why? Yes, he was in jail, and at the time there was no internet, so he used to communicate a lot with letters. I kept writing to him, and I said, now that you don't have a chance to write any letters or anything, do you want to have your voice heard through Darthrone? And he agreed. And that's that. That whole black metal calamity with the church burnings and murders and whatnot probably brought a lot of attention to this genre. However, I also think that it seemed quite exotic that so many bands came at the same time from Norway, and also that we sang in our native language. And this is one of the albums that has a lot of Norwegian vocals, but it still made it to an international audience, and I thank you for that, and I thank me for that, and us for that. Rather exotic. That riff is also kind of melodic, but that's one of the melodic riffs I actually like. And this is classic Bathory style. I can almost hear the voice of Quarthon on this riff. And this is sort of a D-beat guitar riff rhythm, which Bathory actually had a lot of. Another melodic riff that I like. Very dramatic. As I tend to be the drama queen, no. The one guitar playing the melody and the other one's just backing up. And the 80s had been a decade where riffs were barely played more than 4 times. I don't know how many times that riff there just went, but a lot more than 4 times. And the monotony that Ron and Burson brought to the table in the 90s, also this album, very monotonous, had a huge impact because we had 10 years of just rifforamas. A very important point. Also, we need to point out that Bathory was monotonous long before that, way ahead of its time, and should never be forgotten. And it is the most important black metal band. First 4 Bathory albums. Mandatory. There we have bass drum rolls, which I actually think is a bit too fancy to do, but I used to do it a lot, and at least one riff on or part on this album should have bass drum rolls. I probably thought, just for a little bit of variation, not to try and sound fancy, because I was a drummer inspired by the likes of Neil Peart, drummer of Watchtower, and even jazz and so on, but I just sacrificed all all possible skills to just make them monotonous. The monotonous behemoth that Transilvanian Hunger album actually is. Just one note for a long time. This kind of riffs actually inspired by our own guitarist Zephyrus' way of writing on a song like In de dype skogers favn, which is probably my fave Darthrone black metal song, one of the faves in the whole, of all the albums. And here on song number 6, song 2 on side B, is the first rhythm change, or not rhythm change, but tempo change of the drums. These are the kind of riffs that I do best. Later called black and roll, but actually inspired by Hellhammer, Celtic Frost. And it was a calculated impact that the first tempo change should be very far into the album, just for maximum impact, but not maximum, because then I'd have this song as the last song on the album. I'm always particular with the track listing, figuring out what songs needs to be number 2 or 7 or That's an important job of being a musician as well. Although I don't call myself a musician, that's disgusting. I'm actually not supposed to swear on these commentary tracks or podcasts on Peaceville Records, and I can't remember if I effed up so far, but right now I'm feeling for a beer actually. Short break for me. Drinking a beer isn't swearing, is it? Nah. A delicious riff to play bass on. And here and there I do small, I don't know whatchamacallit, improvisations on guitar, pulling of strings, it feels free to do it. You just have to not do it all the time, just portion it out correctly. Tom G. Warrior was an expert in doing that in Hellhammer and Celtic Cross. And you can hear this tempo that's on the entire album is neither fast nor slow. It's just so fast that you wouldn't normally be able to play the hi-hats on both the bass drum and the snare drum hit, but it's not really fast either. It's just supposed to be, I don't know, not stressful, not aggressive. Really, I'm not trying to be aggressive on this album at all. There's a lot of emotion in it, and so Nocturnal Culto and me would call it too filled with emotion. It's easy for him to say, but I made the goddamn thing. But that was swearing, wasn't it? But yeah, I still feel that this sort of caters a bit to the gothic element of black metal, and I'm not too fond of that. This song is a real earworm in a negative sense of the word, that it sort of gnaws at you. Riff is like a ambulance, you know, just very annoying and very it's I don't know, psychotic, but it's it's playing a number on my psyche. It's directly from my psyche at the time. I mean, the whole black metal world that I knew was just sort of falling apart. And this is Crisis. Small variations on the bass. And the album is probably smack full of small playing mistakes. That don't matter. I'm really usually bored when I hear recordings without any mistakes. However, for those that like perfect metal, I'm really into the Attacker Giants of Canaan album right now, these days, this year, 2014. Recommended. Kind of in the same way of metal style, but not perfect as such, is the Borrowed Time album. Go get it, I'm crazy about it. It's my fave album so far this year. And this is June. That whole riff there just lifts the song, and of course it's very, very needed for this song. Fantastic vocals from Ted, and here is elaboration of the same riff. These two riffs work really well in this song. And of course a lot of people want to copy this vocal style as well, but a lot of them do it too, I don't know, too light up in the register, ending up sounding almost like Donald Duck instead of any grimness. And Nocturno Koto's voice has a lot of grimness in it, and it's a bit darker. A lot of people just listens a bit and just hear, okay, the vocals don't go, they go, they go, I don't know how to explain it. A lot of people manage to mess up the vocals when they're doing this black metal style. Usually it's smart that the vocalist writes the lyrics himself, so he actually feels the word or the words he's singing, and then can do a bit of variation. There it is again, variation is a key. Smart little break in the song there. This was the fourth album on Peaceville, and we had more and more necro-sounding albums for each album, which is totally the opposite direction that most bands have. Also, after this album, our fourth on Peaceville, our record deal was over, and we went for a smaller label. Also, a pretty bold move. Not a lot of people do that. They don't want that, we don't have to do that. We could probably choose, but we've said some pretty unpopular things, and probably bigger labels wouldn't want to deal with us after this album. Moonfolk did. Horrible solo, but it's a bit of Voivod in that solo, you can call it a solo. Just kind of experimenting on the start and the end riff of this song. But the mid part still holds up. Yeah, when I made that riff, I was actually wondering if anyone could bear to listen to it, and I thought probably not. They would just skip the song or whatever. Backwards message. Can't remember what that was. But it actually sounds a bit magical and unexpected. Melodic but rather wonderful riff. The song is called En ås I dype skogen. En ås I dype skogen. A hill in the deep forest. At this point, we didn't really have any contact with fans, or didn't actually know if we had fans with the, or we didn't have contact with the press. We didn't get any feedback on the album, but then came the summer of '94, and people from all over the world started showing up And not because of this album, but the entire impact that the black metal from Norway had on the rest of the world. And there were cool people coming, and there were people that just didn't seem to get the point. I mean, a lot of people were obviously real smitten with this style, probably didn't have a lot of knowledge where metal even came from, because 60s, 70s. And we all had that background, so it was really confusing to talk to people that were like only into black metal. It's really strange. For us, it was another branch on the tree, you know. Strange riffs, there's a lot of atmosphere here. It's just not sad, not only sad, there's melancholic, maybe a tundra is showing up in my mind, I don't know, there's I would say that's really typical for Norwegians. You mix the inner feelings with landscapes, probably people all over the world, things like that, but anyway, I do. So there's inner feelings mixed with visions of landscape or geography. Again, one guitar plays the melodic and the other one just has the bass notes, basic notes. Not too sure if those are my favorite riffs, but again, I did them here and there on the album for variation, and it's just what I made. Yeah, when this riff with the vocal comes there, it feels like a liberation from the previous riff. So it's a good lift. And of course, when this was released, we had no idea that it would be some sort of classic. We had no idea that I would 21 years later sit here and do commentary tracks on it for a re-release. Of course, very humble and honored that it's possible that there's a market out there for it, which is strange because I was figuring maybe just like 1,000 or 100 people out there would understand this particular style. And the ending there is a clear homage to Poison from Germany's fantastic Into the Abyss demo. Thank you all for listening. And when it comes to Poison references, the album, The Cult is Alive, is the title is a vocal line from Poison's Into the Abyss demo, recorded in December 1986. Thank you for listening again.